Hi there, I'm Bridgette from the Bridgette Gallery and PhillyArtExperience.com. Thank you so much for signing up again, and I'm really excited to kick off a series of 10 videos on art collecting. I've had my art gallery now in Philadelphia for the past 13 years, and during that time, I've had the privilege and honor of working with hundreds of art collectors over those years. And what I've learned through curating corporate art collections, private art collections, and working with emerging collectors, as well as blue chip art collectors, is that there are many fears around art collecting. So as I began to notice this over the years, I took an informal poll and I came up with a list of the top 10 fears that people have around art collecting. And what I wanted to do in this series was to talk about these fears and really distill and demyth some of them, and really talk about how, in its simplest form, art collecting is something that really comes from your heart, your soul, and your mind, and you can really create a beautiful art collection through listening to your inner voice and through having professionals like myself work with you on your art collection. So one of the first fears that I like to talk about is the fear that your friends and your family won't like what you're buying. And that's a fear that I actually encountered early on in my own art collecting. When I started buying work, I became a little bit self-conscious and wasn't sure if people around me would like what I was buying. And then as an art dealer, I became even more self-aware and conscious that what I was buying was even more important because other people were going to be coming in and looking at my collection. But what I quickly decided was the most important thing for me was listening to that inner voice. And maybe for some of you, you have 10 inner voices, but there's typically an inner voice that says, wow, I really like that, or gosh, I don't like that at all, or I'm just not sure if that's good or not. Or you might walk into an exhibition in a gallery and say, wow, none of this is speaking to me, or gosh, all of it's speaking to me and I can't really decide what piece to buy. And that's the inner voice that I'm talking about. And one of the great things about art collecting is that it's really an opportunity for you to think about what your taste is and what your style is and the type of environment that you'd like to create. And I've seen all kinds of environments created. And one of the things for me personally that's important is being intellectually stimulated by the type of art that I'm surrounded by. That's one concept that I have in my collection. And then the other thing that's very important to me as well is the idea of beauty. And I love being surrounded by inspiration and beauty. So there's so many levels to art collect on. One of the artists that I've come to know over the years that I wanted to share a story about is an artist from Madrid, Spain, Armand Gomez. And I found his work because I went to Spain about 5 years ago to meet with a private art collector. He had one of the most prominent abstract art collections in Spain. And I went to see if I could find a new artist to bring back to Philadelphia, and an artist that had never shown in the United States. And as I got a tour of his collection, I kept hearing the voice in my head saying, I don't like any of this. And I knew there'd come a point at the end of the tour where he'd asked me which artists I liked, and I was kind of starting to panic a little bit because I didn't like any of them. And as I was sitting there chatting with him, I noticed there was a very interesting piece of art tucked in a corner, kind of hung up near one of his ceilings. And I kept noticing it, and finally I said, gosh, who is that photographer? And he got very excited and he said, that's Armand Gomez, and he's a very prominent and very well-known photographer from Madrid. He's had several exhibitions, he's shown at the Reina Sofia Museum, he's done commissions, and he's very well-known. So I said, wow, I would really like to see more of the work. So he said, that's great because his gallery is right around the corner. So the next day I found myself in this beautiful gallery. Armand came to meet me. We had an incredible conversation about his work. I loved everything. I looked at his resume, very impressive, and that inner voice kept saying, wow, this work is really incredible. You really need to get him to Philadelphia. So I purchased a few pieces from my private collection, and then I quickly set up a solo show of Armand's work in Philadelphia. And I was kind of nervous before the show because some of the work was very provocative. There was some nudity, and I wasn't sure if my clients would respond to it or not. So I had the show and I was overwhelmed by the response. He had some wonderful press and the work sold and people were flipping out over it. But I did have those few people that came in and said, you know what? This really isn't for me. It's too provocative, or I just don't like it, or I don't get it. And what I've noticed is that people either really like something or they really don't like something. And when people listen to that inner voice, they make great decisions about art collecting. Now you'll have a chance to meet Erman and come to the benefit show and see 4 of his panels that he's created. They're mixed media panels in the style that he likes to work in. And I'm really looking forward to having you come out and to also meet the artists who will be here in Philadelphia for the opening. Come say hi. This is Erman Gomez. Thank you so much for listening to this video. And I look forward to seeing you at the benefit show and having you come see the work and let us know what you think.